And while none of these companies are outright saying we're replacing humans with AI, they don't really have to. I think the pattern is pretty clear.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your no-fluff guide to artificial intelligence in higher ed. I'm Mallory Willsea, bringing nearly 20 years of edtech and marketing expertise straight to your earbuds. Higher ed leaders are expected to master AI overnight, but let's be real, no one has time to sift through every headline, hot take, or research report. That's why every Monday, I'll break down what actually matters. Fast, clear, and to the point. Want to sound like the smartest person in the room at your next team meeting? You're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Higher Ed Pulse. On today's episode, AI layoffs aren't hypothetical anymore, they're here. IBM says AI has already replaced hundreds of jobs. Meta and Salesforce are freezing hires. Duolingo just cut contractors. And suddenly, all those AI will enhance your work headlines are starting to look a little different. Is our biggest fear coming true? That AI won't just reshape the work, but replace the people doing it? Joining me today is Jackie Davis, a strategic program leader with 15 years of experience building community, designing experiences, and leading engagement strategy across sectors. At the American Marketing Association, she leads national programming and professional communities. So she's tuned into how marketers, communicators, and creatives are navigating this AI shift in real time. Before that, she led global employee experience at Salesforce, one of the very companies now at the center of the AI workforce conversation. Her focus, using AI and automation to enhance culture and recognition, not erase it. And during her decade at Georgia State, she helped bridge university innovation with industry needs, laying the groundwork for the kind of cross-sector collaboration higher ed needs right now. I have had the pleasure of getting to know Jackie over the past couple of months as I joined the committee planning this year's AMA Symposium for the marketing of higher ed. Jackie, welcome to the Pulse. It's been about a week since the AMA higher ed proposal deadline closed. I got to ask, how many submissions did we get? And what are you expecting to be the big themes or trends at the event this fall?
Well, Mallory, first, thanks for having me and so excited to be here today. This year's symposium is going to be in National Harbor, Maryland, and we hope everyone tuning in with us will join in November. We have received nearly 300 submissions to our call for proposals.
Let's go!
So, yes, the committee has a lot of work ahead, reviewing and deciding on which proposals will make it to the symposium.
That's awesome. So are you seeing any trends or themes that you're expecting to be, the sellout session at the conference in the fall?
Well, like this podcast, we know that MarTech and AI is definitely top of people's minds, but we also see a shift and think that enrollment, retention, fundraising, and revenue generating activities in general will be very popular this year.
Yeah, I definitely noticed last year. Well, obviously, everybody noticed the uptick in AI conversations around the exhibit hall last year. But I also felt like there was more representation from our friends over in advancement and how they're thinking about alumni engagement marketing and fundraising. And so I really do hope and expect, right, that that's going to continue to grow at this symposium.
Certainly.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get right into it, y'all. In the last 2 weeks alone, IBM said AI has already replaced hundreds of roles. Salesforce is freezing engineering hires. Duolingo just cut its contractor workforce to go AI first. Meta is quietly trimming their staff. And CrowdStrike, a cybersecurity company, just laid off 500 employees, citing AI efficiencies as the reason. It's not a blip. It's not hypothetical. It's happening. And while none of these companies are outright saying we're replacing humans with AI, they don't really have to. I think the pattern is pretty clear. We've moved past the moment of disruption and into something that's a bit more subtle and maybe even more permanent. AI isn't just something that we are experimenting with anymore. It's becoming the reason behind hiring freezes, and it is officially reshaping our org charts. In some places, it's replacing people without ever saying so out loud, which brings us to higher ed. For months, this fear has been simmering. In fact, it was one of the hot topics at the AMA Symposium last year. Will AI actually support our teams, or will it make them smaller? And I think that fear is starting to show up now in very real ways on Slack threads, in hallway conversations, and in leadership meetings. So today, Jackie and I are not just going to unpack these headlines. We're going to ask, what does leadership look like in a moment like this? And how do we talk about AI without triggering panic or sugarcoating reality? So I'll say, Jackie, this very topic, right? It was on everyone's tongues at the AMA in Vegas last year. So I love that you are my guest for this week. And you've also worked inside companies like Salesforce, where this is literally playing out in real time. So I'm so curious to just start with your gut reaction when you read the headlines like Duolingo cuts contractor roles or Salesforce is freezing hiring. Like, what is going through your mind as someone who's actually been inside those systems?
Yeah. The only constant is change.
Preach.
And and I heard this quote once: the only way you survive is if you continuously transform. And I think that applies not only to companies, but to teams and to every individual who's navigating this AI shift along with us. Right now, transformation isn't optional, it's essential, but it has to be done with care. The companies need to stay agile, but also really deeply invested in their people. And that means they need to create space for reskilling, encouraging curiosity, and making professional growth a shared value. Because it's not just about the automation, it's about, an evolution in these industries. And I think, the companies that prioritize both innovation and their employees' development are the ones that are going to actually thrive.
You saying that reminded me of this graphic I saw on Instagram last week. Very simple graphic. It was 2 bar lines. The top bar line showed how professional athletes train, right? And so all their training time colored in blue. And then when they show up to do the work that they've prepared for, colored in red. Well, their bar graph looked like a lot of blue with little blips of red throughout it. And then underneath that was all of us in corporate America, right? Or in higher ed. And our bar line, very red with tiny little blips of blue for training, right? It is the exact opposite. And that really struck me, right? Like, elite athletes spend 90% of their time training, 10% of their time showing up to do the task at hand. And yet those of us sitting at our desk all day, we do the exact opposite. And you've spent your whole career helping people professionally grow and leading employee experiences and recognition like you did at Salesforce. So I'm curious, do you have any insider insights from your time there? And in your opinion, what does it take to maintain trust and engagement when these roles are being reshaped, if not eliminated, by AI?
Yeah. During, my time at Salesforce, I led programs that focused on employee recognition and engagement, and it was for 17,000 people globally. So when you're working at that scale, and especially during times of change, you realize that trust is everything. And trust isn't something that's built with one all hands meeting or a clever comms plan. It's really built through consistency. So at Salesforce, employee experience wasn't just a buzzword, it was an organizational priority. We knew that recognition, connection, and purpose directly impacted not only employee engagement, but also retention. So whether we were planning global events or launching new initiatives, we were constantly asking, how do people feel in this moment? And how do we help them feel seen, valued, connected to something bigger than just their job title? So as AI became part of the bigger conversation, reskilling and upskilling weren't just encouraged, they were actually expected. Our L&D team rolled out AI learning paths, certificates in Trailhead, and they even launched friendly challenges to encourage people to take that learning further. For me, one of the most energizing moments was I got to participate in an internal AI hackathon that was sponsored by our chief people officer.
Cool.
The prompt they gave us was simple, but very powerful. It was, how could AI help you do your job better? And my team focused on employee recognition. And our idea was an AI powered tool that boosted productivity, delivered timely, personalized feedback, and fostered a culture of celebration, which we ended up winning the People's Choice Award. But it was really just a reminder that even in these times of change, people want solutions that make work feel more human, not less.
So you mentioned, you were running these programs for 17,000 Salesforce employees, and right, like one would have to imagine more than the average layman that somebody who's literally working at Salesforce is probably having the internal argument every single day of AI's coming for my job versus no, it's going to be okay because I'm upskilling and AI is just going to create more jobs than it eliminates. And at the end of the day, right, I think these layoffs aren't just about efficiency, like they're changing how people see their value. And so with 17,000 employees at Salesforce, right, like how are you helping lead a team like that when maybe that unspoken question is, am I next?
Yeah. Well, when people are anxious about their jobs, I think silence is the worst possible response. Mm-hmm. It creates, a vacuum, and fear can fill it fast. In those moments, I would recommend that leaders lean in to more frequent communication, not less. Even if they don't have all the answers, they should check in, ask questions, share context, and most importantly, listen to their people.
So, hey, it's Mallory. Quick thought. What if your team didn't have to worry about what's getting missed after hours? What if your campaigns kept moving, your segmentation kept updating, and your students kept getting support while your team focused on the big stuff? That's what a digital workforce makes possible. Element 451 is helping marketing teams rethink how work gets done and who's helping it get done. See Bolt Agents, the digital workforce for higher ed marketers, live at the Engage Summit this June. Register at enrollify.org/engage and use the code ENGAGE50 for $50 off. All right, back to the show. I agree with you, but if I'm a mid-level manager and I'm in a role that's focused on like synthesizing reports, I'm probably feeling quite vulnerable right now. Like AI excels at that kind of pattern recognition and really structured problem solving in a way that like I, as that, manager used to own. We're seeing a lot of new roles emerge like AI ops and experience designers as some of these other positions get eliminated. So, is this about helping teams see the opportunity in the shifts versus just the threats? And what advice would you give to leaders?
Yeah, I think definitely the first step is reframing the conversation. Instead of thinking, AI is coming for our jobs, we shift it to AI is changing how we work. So how can we grow with it? And people have many foundational skills that are needed in the workplace, whether it's critical thinking, communication, curiosity, problem solving. The real opportunity is helping teams see how those strengths translate into new roles, or more importantly, new ways of working. So for leaders, they should actively be mapping where their team is strong, where the tech can handle the repetitive work, and where uniquely human insight still matters. And more than anything, they should be inviting their teams into this process. Because when people feel like they're co-creating the future, they see change as an opportunity and not as a threat.
Yeah, human strengths at the end of the day still matter the most. I think it's, the last couple years have shown us anything, and that you check the headlines frequently enough, like I do, like AI lacks empathy. It lacks ethical reasoning. It doesn't have the same lived experiences that we have, and that leads to some biases, right? And so these are the qualities that are just so critical in our human leaders and our teachers. Those are the things that bring about true innovation and storytelling. And to your point, like AI is probably going to automate a lot of tasks and not full roles, but history has absolutely shown us that transformation happens more often than destruction. And so, like the Industrial Revolution and the internet like killed a lot of manual jobs. We don't see a ton of travel agents anymore thanks to the internet, but think about all those roles, the social media managers, the data scientists, right? Like all those roles it created as well. And so I think, regardless of where you fall in this argument, the advice you gave is spot on. Like the challenge is around reskilling right now. Hey, and maybe that's why this year's AMA Symposium matters more than ever. I don't know. Little plug.
We will have pre-conference workshops.
Ooh, you heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. So, all right, a couple more questions, Jackie, before we wrap up. I know a lot of leaders listen to this podcast, right? Especially in the cabinet level or heads of their units. So when roles start to shift, I think you and I both know that the words leaders use matter the most. And if the leaders are feeling uncomfortable right now, right, they have to be even more careful. So what advice would you give to leaders who need to talk to their campuses or their teams about these AI related changes, especially when they themselves don't have all the answers yet?
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, the truth is we're all learning in real time, and AI is evolving faster than, most of our org charts can keep up with. But it doesn't mean that leaders should go silent or even try to sugarcoat the conversation. In fact, being brave and saying, I don't know yet, can be a powerful leadership move if it's paired with, here's what we do know, here's what we're prioritizing, and here's how we'll keep you informed. I think in times of uncertainty, people don't need all the answers. They need to know that they're not being left alone in the dark.
What you just said reminded me of the crisis communications course I took in my master's program. And the main tenet of good crisis communications is that you protect the victim and you communicate as quickly as possible. And this feels like maybe we're in the crises of the AI layoffs. And if I am an employee, I may be feeling like the victim. And so I think you're spot on. Leaders have to do those two things: communicate quickly and protect the people who work for them. And that protection is about being transparent and communicating clearly. So as we wrap this one up, Jackie, any other advice to leaders in terms of the culture side of all this as AI adoption ramps up? What's something that we need to make sure we're doing, or maybe stop pretending isn't happening?
Yeah. If I could give leaders one piece of advice right now, it's this: double down on connection. Culture is built in the everyday moments: how you recognize people, how you make space for questions, how you lead during uncertain times. I've seen firsthand, the power of small cultural shifts and programs, things like inclusive events, volunteer opportunities, panel discussions that are integrated into your workday or your experience. But these things say you belong here. And that's what makes people and employees feel welcome. And I think that's what they need to hear right now. And to your point about what they should stop pretending, I think leaders should stop pretending that this is temporary. AI isn't going to slow down. We're not going back to normal. Change is here, but so is opportunity. So leaders who lean in with empathy, clarity, and courage can make sure that culture becomes their competitive advantage. And I think that's the kind of leadership and organizations that at the end of the day, people will remember.
Jackie, you're exactly right. People will remember how you showed up and how you led through this uncertainty and how you made space for real conversations while everything else was changing. And at the end of the day, all of this, it just comes down to one simple thing that's not very simple: behavior change. And that's not just for our teams, but for us too. Leaders can't just adopt new technology. We've got to adopt new habits. And that starts with, like we were saying, one step, one skill, just at a time. If these are the conversations, friends, that you're craving more of, I hope Jackie and I will see you this fall at the AMA Symposium. The schedule is starting to take shape. Those proposals are in, and it's going to be a really good one. We are so excited for the symposium this year. We're back in National Harbor. It was such a great event there a few years back. Thanks for listening today, Jackie. Thank you so much for joining us. Friends, we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Pulse. The show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.